cockpit of my truck. Hey everybody, TacBishop here. A couple of people have requested in the past a quick, I guess, overview of the cockpit of my truck, or the truck I used to drive. As you know, some of you may know I don't drive anymore. But this is the cockpit of the WesternStar 4700 series. First thing, we got your basic power windows, up and down, pretty basic, no big deal. Move on to the signal indicator switch and the high-low headlight switch, which is above the hazardous blinkers. To cancel the blinkers, just move the indicator switch in either direction. We'll cancel the four-way flashers. Okay, now we move on to the engine oil temperature, coolant temperature, engine oil pressure, and the volts or the alternator. Move on to just a basic tachometer, speedometer, and your two top gauges are the air pressure gauges. This one is the suspension pressure behind the tandem, back two wheels of the cab. Fuel gauge, which also has the bottom there. You see the E and the F is the DEF fuel indicator. This one is the indicator for the transmission, which gear you're in. Flip it on real quick. And it shows we're in neutral. We're in neutral. Here's some of the dash lights as you're doing a system check. Here's some of the system check lights. And they click off as each one is checked. Now moving on to the big control panel. All these buttons. Looks kind of maybe complicated or not, I don't know. Here's your hand valve. I call it a hand valve for the trailer. Brakes, if you want to do a tug test when you connect your trailer to the truck, you would put it in gear, pull this down, and pull forward to make sure you're connected good, and the kingpin is made a secure grab. Okay, we're going to the next buttons. This is the engine brake, which is the on and off switch. Then you have the high, medium, and low selector switch, ever how much engine brake you want. Then the cruise control off and on switch. And this is the accel or the set button for the cruise control. And the resume or the decelerate. Well, actually it's the opposite. Decelerate up here. Okay, then the regen override switch. This is what this is for. If some of these trucks like this one, we don't do a lot of miles, and the trucks have to regen when they're going good distances. Sometimes we only drive 5 or 10 miles, and it doesn't really get a chance to regen. So after a while of not being able to regen, if you don't get a long run in, you would have to stop and manually put it into the regen. Then you got your headlight switch, the dash lights. This is just the dimmer for the dash lights. Then the overhead lights and the trailer lights is this switch here. This says trailer lights, but what it is, it's the blinker. If you've ever passed a truck or whatever and they blink their tail lights at you, that's what they're hitting in this particular truck. Some of them are in various different places. Backup lights, which this is just spotlights on the back of the truck. It's actually a work light. It lights up the entire area around the back of the truck when you're working. And here's something I really love, is the mirror defog button. off and on, and this is the mirror adjuster for the passenger side. It doesn't. You have to manually do it on the driver's side. Then on down to this. This is just a blank button. You could put something in there if you need to, but right now it doesn't do anything. This is the wheel spin, the snow. Keep your wheels from spinning. You know, sometimes they lose traction. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but this particular truck, you don't need this. You can be on ice and just put the accelerator all the way to the floor, and it'll just drive away because it's an automatic wheel slip limiter. So I'm not really sure what that button does. I don't mess with it, never have, but that emblem comes up on the dash over here if you start spinning. As soon as it spins, it immediately breaks the spin and stops it. This one, have no idea. I think that's for the doing diagnostics with the computer. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody in the comments can let me know. HSA DVRD. Not sure what that is. And this is the, we have a boom on this particular truck. And when it's up in the air, there's a switch that won't allow it to drive forward. That kind of disengages the transmission. And sometime when you have it up in the air, you need to move forward a couple of feet or backwards a couple of feet. So this button, you would have to manually hold it down, and it will engage the transmission as long as you have it down to move forward or backward to keep you from, you know, it saved me a couple of times. You forget the boom's up, you get doing something else. You try to drive away after unloading and maybe raining or whatever. You know, anything could distract you, and it'll keep you from driving away with the boom up in the air, tearing down power lines. We have terminated a couple of people for putting a piece of paper up under here and hold this switch down so they wouldn't have to, you know, do it when they're adjusting their position. They wouldn't have to hold that button down, but then eventually, just like you would think, it catches up to him, and he forgot, and he drove off of an area and tore down all the power lines and stuff like that. So and that's an immediate termination if you do that. This is the windshield wiper on. This is the, I call it, what is it, the intermittent. Then the next button is the high-low speed, and then the washer. Then down here is the locking the axles together, the differential lock if you're spinning in the mud or something. This one is the suspension, the airbag dump right here. This one lets you slide the fifth wheel if you need to adjust your weight from the, you know, off the nose of the truck or whatever. And the final button over here is the PTO. You have to turn that on. And we've had a lot of people in the past. Sometimes it's hard to engage the PTO after you've been driving for 10 or 15 minutes. It wants to scrub. And what I always do, as soon as I stop, turn the PTO on, then take it out of gear, and then pull the brakes on. This allows the engine to slow down enough to get the PTO engaged. If you try to stop and take it out of gear and apply the brakes, sometimes the PTO won't go in. So that's the order I do it. Stop with the foot brake, on, neutral, set the brake, then release the brake, because the brake on these automatics are actually the clutch. So that's how that works. Then the standard 10-speed automatic transmission. You can go into manual and shift here. This is the service light. And that will come on these trucks if you... I have in the past just my foot slip off the accelerator, and it will cause something in this transmission to show a service light. And all you have to do is stop, turn the switch off, ignition switch, let it sit for 2 minutes, allow the computer to reset, and start back up. And I've never had any issue with it after that. It usually goes without any problems. Then we have the parking brake, trailer brakes. This actually opens the lids on the trailer so we can load the truck. Anyway, that's the inside of the truck. You know, just the basic air conditioning, heater controls, and ignition. power. Nobody smokes anymore, but there that is. Cup holders. Desk. No clutch. The clutch and the brake is actually the same thing. It will not go into gear without the brake being applied. Little city horn, I call it. Maybe that's what it is. City horn. And just a basic